Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome to the 31st Pygame tutorial video. In this video, what we're going to be talking about now is menu screens and also a little bit about our message to screen function. So this function here. So right now, when we run our game, I swear I hit it, but it's not coming up. There we go. And we see our first menu, like this menu here. We get game over, press C to play again, or Q to quit. But eventually, I'd like to make game over, bigger. And then press C to play again or Q to quit. I'd like that to, not be as large as the game over, but it needs to be like game over and then the, press C to play again or Q to quit. And to do that, if we try to make game over big and then press C to play again or Q to quit, they would be over each other, right? Because our function right now just centers this stuff on the screen. So now what I want to talk about is just a real basic way to give our message to screen function an update and to allow for us to add in a little more functionality like what I've just described. So ideally, when we message to screen, we always probably want it centered. The only thing I can think of that I would never want to be like centered right out of the gate is, maybe if you've got like buttons, and then maybe if you've got, like score won't be, but that's not a message to the screen, really. So everything that I can think of that would encompass what I would use the define message to screen function for will be centered on the screen, but at least centered on the x-axis, but not necessarily on the y-axis. So what I'd like to add to this function is we've got message, color, and then I'm going to just add another variable, and I'm going to call it y_displace. And we're also going to assign a default value to this. That way someone doesn't have to enter a y_displace. If they don't, it'll just be centered totally. But they can enter a y_displace should they choose. And this is going to be displacement from the center. Okay? So what we'll do now is when we go to center this, like here, we've got textrect.center equals display width divided by 2, perfect, and then display height divided by 2. And then what we can do here is just simply add plus y_displace. And now when we do that, we're basically adding whatever the amount of pixels it is that we enter into displace. So say we want to, have two things. We might have, game over displaced by 100 pixels up, so minus 100. And then another thing, the other message will be maybe right in the center, or maybe 10 pixels under the center, something like that. So we can do stuff like that. So now what I want to do is we're going to come over to where we have game over. So while game over equals true is what we're looking for. While game over equals true. And we have this message to screen right here. Ideally what we'd like to do is game over, and this one is red, so I'm just going to do this. So game over, comma, red, and then we can displace this by, let's do -50 pixels, and then we'll do another message _to_screen, and this one will be press C to play again or Q to quit. And this will be in black, and then it will be displaced by 50 pixels. Okay, so now when we go to save and run this, we'll just let it run off the screen here. We see we've got game over and then press C to play again or Q to quit, and they're spaced away from each other. Obviously we can play with the spacing all friggin' day. But I'm going to change the font and the size of all this stuff, so I'm not too worried about making the spacing just so right now. So we'll leave it at that. Also, just in case you guys are maybe new-ish to Python and you don't know, when you have function defaults, like we've made a default, right? So this is a parameter default where we say y_displace equals 0. This allows the person to not enter something. So we could say red and then nothing, run that, and when we run off the screen, it will center the game over, and then it moves the other one because we gave it a value. And if you ever have like a lot of these function parameter defaults, it's a good idea to define it in the actual function itself when you call it. So we've got game over red, and then you would say, just to be really clear, instead of -50, you would say y_displace equals -50, and that will work in the same manner that it's been working. But it's a little more clear. So if you have a lot of function defaults, maybe you don't want to use all of the defaults. So like say you have a y_displace and I don't know, a z_displace, and y_displace comes first and then z_displace in the function definition, you would want to specifically say, hey, I'm referencing y_displace. Otherwise it has no idea what you're referencing. Also, if you just happen to have a lot of parameters in your function, it can be useful to write them out just purely if you're reading through. You don't have to be like, wait, what was the third function in message to screen? Then you got to scroll up and be like, oh, okay, it was that function, blah, 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 or that parameter, and so on. So anyway, that's that. We're going to continue building on these kind of like menus and messages to the screen, make them look a little more appealing. Right now they're really ugly. So we're going to work on that. So stay tuned for that. As always, thanks for watching.